guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Neighbor is Big Mad About My Racetrack. Okay, so it finally happened today. Last spring my family finally moved into our dream home. We bought the property years ago and through the pandemic finally were able to get our dream home built. The property is essentially in the middle of nowhere, with the nearest neighbor being about a mile down the road. On the few hundred acres we have, I decided to do my best at recreating some professional drift tracks from Driftmasters European Championship and Formula Drift. We were able to create 1/1 models of Wall NJ, Riga, Irwindale CA, Texas, Poland, Seattle, Englishtown NJ. Everything is up to code and greenlit by the county. We plan to open a drift school on the property in the future. We've also built 6 cars to 800 horsepower primarily using 5.3L Chevy V8s. The cars are an E36 BMW, E46 BMW, 96 Silvia, 13 BRZ, 15 Mustang and a 16 MX-5. I list all of this because it is loud and smoky here on the farm a lot. And for the past 7 or 8 months we've had absolutely no issues, minus a trespasser destroying his car in our shed. Today that changed. I have some family in town for the holiday and among them are my cousin, M39, and his son, 17. Having grown up drifting with my cousin was super hyped to take his boy out and slide around the track. So we grabbed a couple of the track cars and cut loose. About 40 minutes into it and as we were swapping out tires I hear sirens and step out of the garage. Coming down my driveway are 2 fire engines, a couple of police cars and an SUV. They all park and hop out and I ask how I can help them. They ask about a fire along with noise, to which I explain the drift cars and motion to all of the racetrack around the property. Show them my county documents which allow for the tracks, etc. At this point my apparent neighbor, M50s, I've never met, starts yelling about the noise and how I should be arrested. The sergeant who had shown up with the gaggle of responders stopped him and informed him that we aren't doing anything illegal and so long as we keep our noise to before 10 p.m. on weekdays and 11 p.m. on weekends we are within the law. Neighbor called us a bunch of degenerate, inbred a-holes. Before turning and cussing out the sergeant. We specifically chose this property to build on as it is zoned commercial and automotive, on top of residential. The fire department left almost as soon as they arrived. After the neighbor had his meltdown he was trespassed by PD. A couple of the police hung around and watched us hit a few laps. I offered to take them out and even teach them if they would like free of charge. Then they too left. I come here to ask, Reddit, am I the a-hole for building a giant race facility at my home, which is located in the most appropriate area one can find? Update. Neighbor just came back to knock on my door and tell me that we will no longer be racing cars on our property, threatened to destroy the vehicles and was all but foaming at the mouth. Police came, he called them, and they immediately arrested him for trespassing. This guy is gonna be a great neighbor. The next story is titled Guy in my restaurant complained about food someone bought for him. So I work at KFC. Our dining room is open for sit down. So today, a man came in and was asking around for change. We don't really like when this happens, but we mostly just ignore it since the person will either buy something cheap or leave relatively quickly. I think the man got like $2 and he was trying to get my cashier to cut him a deal. None of our menu options are close to $2, and the cheapest you'll see is 7 or 8. So naturally the cashier declined him. A family walked in a bit after this. The guy was still there, and I assume still asking for change, and they bought him a meal. The meal they got him was $11 or so, 3-piece with 1 side, so it wasn't on the low end. After I went and packed both orders, I ran the family's order out first. Since it was on the same ticket I assumed the other meal was for them later. But when I brought the 3-piece out, the guy stopped me soon after I gave it to him and told me he wanted fries. Normally wrong sides are no big deal, they either forgot to order it or we rang it in wrong. They usually get fixed with no problem. But this guy not only got a meal bought for him, he also was rude in asking me for fries. He didn't yell or anything, but his tone sounded like he expected me to know he wanted fries even though it said mashed potatoes on our screen. I changed it for him and went about my day. When we left though, we found his table a mess. He had left all his trash and some sauces on the table, just a complete mess. The audacity of someone to not only complain about food someone graciously bought for them, but to then leave the table a mess for no apparent reason. The next story is titled Am I the A-hole for how I handled an old man on my property? So, I just bought a house last month and held my housewarming and all that, and I've settled in. On Saturday I went fishing at a local bayou. When I returned, someone come down the driveway. I didn't recognize them as family or anyone I knew. When the old man got out, I asked, "How you are doing? Can I help you this afternoon, sir?" And he told me his name and that he used to own the house I live in now. He must have been in his late 80s as he looked ancient. And, my mom told me he is definitely over 75. But anyway, he begins to ask to see the inside to see if I had changed anything. Now I smoke weed and I make wine and unaged brandy from fruit I pick locally, and my house is kind of my sanctuary to do whatever the hell I want to. I told the man no, as my house wasn't clean and I didn't want any guests right now. He started walking to my front door and opened it before I could get there. I had fish scales, blood and a knife in my hand, and he walked into my house. The first thing he saw was a bong next to my chair in the living room, then saw all the empty and full alcohol bottles. He starts asking question after question. He sees my Ireland flag and my NCR flag from the Fallout games, and it's close to California's state flag, just a two-headed bear, ha ha. And he asks, "You some kind of liberal, I hope you didn't vote for that N-word president?" I was taken aback. That was a long time ago, and yes, I did in fact. Obama was the first person I ever got to vote for, and I did. But I just looked at this old man and told him to get the duck out. He just stood there for a few seconds, and I repeated, "Get the duck out of my house." He finally turned around and left. He said, "Your parents didn't raise you right, young man. I owned this house for 40 years. You got no right to my family land." I said, "I bought this land, sir, from your family, and it is mine. And I can kick a noisy racist out of my home, especially since I had already told you not to enter my house. Now get the duck off my property before I call the police." He told me to go to hell and drove off. When he peeled off, he sent a gravel rock through my living room window. I sent him a quote from a local glass company, and since my window was double paned, it would be around $500 to replace it. My mom started getting messages on Facebook from this old mama family saying if they knew what kind of kid, I'm 30, was buying their land, they never would have sold it. My mom came to my house and asked me to not press the issue and to cover the cost of the window. She said, "He is an old man, you could have been nicer." I responded that he entered my home without permission, then proceeded to be racist in my home. You can say whatever you want to in my house, but racism and misogyny are not those. She told me I should apologize to their family as they are my neighbors and could make my life difficult. Was I being a-hole for telling the old man to duck off? The comment said, "Not the a-hole. He was guilty of trespassing and breaking and entering. When you sell a property, you give up all rights to it." I would file a complaint with the police and then take him to small claims court of the cost of the window repair. The next story is titled Steal Our Profits and We'll Steal Your Business. Sorry if this is a bit vague, but I'll dox myself otherwise. Years ago, 4 of us joined a startup to invent and build a product for a specific industry that we were experienced in. The company founder was a prominent local businessman, Sal, who promised us shares and profit sharing. Within a couple years we were beating the competition and even landed a big Fortune 500 company as a customer partner. Unfortunately, Sal's pledge to share the wealth never happened. We knew the expenses and the revenue and the expected profits, but Sal had lots of mysterious debts and expenses and investors to drain it all away. We scraped by with frequent missed, late paychecks on the verge of bankruptcy while Sal evaded our questions, ignored our advice, and slept comfy in his seaside mansion. So, we all quit. And started our own company. And within a couple years we reinvented a superior product. And stole his offshore development team. And stole his manufacturing contractors. And stole away market share. And stole away customers. And stole that Fortune 500 company as a partner, who eventually decided to buy us out for a few million. In hindsight, Sal never knew how to run a company. He was a master conman with a long history of failed companies, screwed over investors, nepotism, and pump and dump penny stock schemes. The good news is that he's a workaholic. Still going to the office every day at age 77 trying to hustle. Instead of spending his golden years traveling and fishing and enjoying his grandchildren, he will die at his desk. The next story is titled You Don't Have That Authority. Throw away because I don't want anyone to figure out where I work. So I work for a 5-star hotel that gets a certain type of clientele who expect certain things from us. It was a decently chill night audit shift. I mean as normal as night audit can be in a downtown area. A guest called down, upset because his room wasn't cleaned and he is one of the few people who actually requested housekeeping. We are so short-staffed that housekeeping is still upon request only. I apologize profusely, and he says it isn't my fault, and not to worry about it, but he would like some compensation because it's something that he expects at a hotel of our caliber. I totally understand. Luckily, my managers have always been very focused on making sure the guests' experience is good as possible, so they give us free rein to compensate whatever we would like. If you don't feel comfortable compensating something, we can always ask them, and if we ever go overboard, they let us know. So, I pull up his bill and I see there is a gift shop charge of a little under $40. I offered to remove that charge for him and I'll make sure that housekeeping gets taken care of tomorrow. He tells me that's it's all right and isn't my fault. He would just like a call from a manager that evening. He expresses that it should be between him and the manager because compensation is happening. It's not likely a lowly little FD agent could ever be able to give compensation. The funny thing is, I could have been a manager, and he wouldn't have even known. I explain that again. I apologize and I am more than happy to put that credit on his room. He insists that the $40 isn't appropriate compensation unless my manager thinks it is, so I let him know that I'll have a manager call him. Keep in mind my night manager has been standing next to me the entire phone call. I turn to him and explain what happened. He laughs and shrugged his shoulders, saying whatever I offered is fine. I put it in the system and then turn back to him and say, oh yeah, he wants to speak to the manager because he thinks that it really should just be between you and him apparently. We both had a good laugh. The next story is titled National Holiday. Long. This particular story took place over the course of a few weeks a few months ago. I show up to work on a major holiday with fireworks. Normally I hate vacation, holiday time where I live because the place becomes absolutely packed. I'm doing my usual thing of checking people in. We have 3 front desk agents on to handle the crowd. We are beyond packed in the hotel, 100 rooms to capacity, and trying to accommodate all the guests. A girl shows up and says the name of the reservation. Then I get her foreign driver's license and pull up the reservation for it to say under 21. Under 21 is an odd thing to note on the reservation. I verify it is her name on the reservation and yep, she is under 21. Since she is from out of country, I didn't have a handy under 21 until. I politely inform her that she needs to be 21 years of age. I understand she is a couple months shy, but that is unfortunate. Then she got her one friend, out of 4, to go up to me because she is of age. I said that's nice, but your name is still listed and we won't be renting to you. Then the girl started whining about our 21 policy. That it isn't listed anywhere. Literally it was the worst voice. They all switched to whiny baby voices. This, of course, made me get angry at the sheer audacity to switch to that voice. I finally get the GM on the phone. I explained 4 girls and 3 are under 21. And still no physical credit card has been presented. He said absolutely no way, they are just here to party. They can go elsewhere. I informed the girls, I spoke to GM, the reservation is cancelled and we won't be renting to them. I keep explaining our policy. Plus they still haven't handed over a credit card. It was on the phone. I said okay, let me see it. I doubt there was a credit card, or rather it was in the parent's name. I told them who to try calling for a possible reservation for the night. Then they told me how they are just super young girls and are terrified to call to make a reservation. Plus, they don't have data or service. Plus they drove 6 hours from Canada to get here. You can't cancel the reservation on us. Remember, this is national holiday with fireworks. The hotel is at capacity and lobby has a lot of check-ins. Then the girls start making remarks about how scared I must be of my boss. I literally just gave them resting idiot face, all while thinking I probably have the chillest bosses at this job. And compared to some toxic workplaces, this is nothing. Other than entitled guests, this is still an easy and relaxing job. Another FD agent had to explain, yes, we do allow children with their parents, guardians. This is clearly not the case. Then they start trying to talk to another FD agent who sees girls his age, and he's like, well, then starts trying to explain the no under 21 policy. Then he switches to, well, if you made the reservation this way. I interrupted the conversation and say, look, this reservation is cancelled. Call up third-party booking to figure it out and find accommodations. They tell me they are going to through a website to make another reservation. I said, you do that, but it won't be with us. They started asking me when I work next. I refused to give my schedule for obvious reasons. It really wouldn't be us because we are closed for all bookings for the next couple of days. They start saying they are going to sneak back in. I said, okay, if you do that, I will inform my supervisor to take the next steps. Then they start saying we will call the police. I responded, please do that. Another guest said, you might not want to do that. I look at them and say, you need to leave the property. You are not welcome. You have two options for tonight: 1. Drive back to Canada, or 2. Make other arrangements for your stay. In between, I texted a supervisor who informed me she made that note on the reservation because they called 2 weeks prior. She informed them to call third party and make other arrangements. Said they aren't smart because she informed them of our cancellation policy. They finally left after loitering the place. There was only one place open that night and it was $500 plus that night. A couple weeks later we get a call from third party saying the girls didn't stay and want a full refund. The supervisor who spoke the guests first informed them of our under 21 policy and to cancel before it gets too late with them. We said nope, they will pay full rate, because not only did they not cancel but showed up in the lobby fully expecting to check in. The girls probably stayed at a different place for the night and wanted us to refund. Nope. You ducked around and found out. I should note I'm new to hospitality and was hired right before the crazy vacation time. And I will shut down that insanity a lot sooner now. The next story is titled Annoying Friendsgiving Host. Some may consider this choosing beggar activity or not. I have a friend that's hosting Friendsgiving this year. Outside of a select few, no one shows up empty-handed, often with a side dish and a drink. The host started planning a while back and asked everyone attending to bring a specific dish, side. Cool, no big deal. A week later he changes his request to something different. 1 week it's a casserole, then it's rolls, then it's mac and cheese, then he'll change it again. It got annoying and I told him sarcastically I'm just going to bring Wonder Bread and jelly, and he gets what he gets. He took offense to it and said he just wants to make sure there's no doubles. I tell him it hasn't been an issue in the past, and if it happens, so what? I was hanging with another friend that's attending. It turns out the host told him to smoke ribs and brisket. The friend didn't want to do any smoking, it's time consuming and expensive, but the host wasn't taking no for an answer apparently. A few days later I checked my calendar and noticed I have to get up early the day after Friendsgiving. After much thought, I decided to not go. So I text the host to let him know. He tells me almost half the group dropped out, including the friend that was smoking the ribs and brisket. Now he has to change the menu up. I asked what he was making, and he said he was doing this slaw that he always makes that no one ever touches. I asked what he was doing for a main dish. He said it was supposed to be the ribs and brisket. Originally it was a bunch of turkey legs and then a whole turkey. He then said since he's hosting he's already buying the utensils and mixers and clean up is time consuming, so that should relieve him of doing any cooking really. I tell him that comes with the territory when he decided he wanted to offer his place up for Friendsgiving, and at the least he should go get a big bucket of chicken if he doesn't plan on cooking. He doesn't agree. I bring up the friend that was supposed to smoke the brisket and I tell the host, now that's time consuming, that's like an 8 to 12 hours cook. The host says, sure, but all you do is drop it in and leave. Our friend doesn't have a Traeger, so it's not set it and forget it. For the sake of the friendship I just tell him to have fun and be safe. So far from the group of about 20-ish, about 12 are still attending. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.